I was being told by my public defender, we're going to go to trial and you're going to fucking lose. Like, please listen to me and take this 10-year plea. 10 years is really, you'll do 50% of your time, which is 5 years. And now I'm like really pregnant at that moment.
Really?
Mm-hmm. I found out I was pregnant like 3 weeks into this arrest. And I didn't know how to handle that or what to do.
3 weeks after you're already in jail?
Yeah.
Holy shit.
They didn't test me for my pregnancy when I came through intake in this jail, which is really bizarre because a lot of places do that just to make sure that no one's getting pregnant while they're there, right? So I didn't even think about it because I was high and it just didn't cross my mind in the intake process. But I found out I was pregnant because another girl put in a sick call for me because I was really sick after I had been there for a few weeks and it was something beyond coming down off drugs. So yeah, I found out I was pregnant, and these pleas, like I can't sign a 20-year plea because I'm never going to get out for this kid. I can't sign a 10-year plea because I'm never going to get out for this kid. If I was not pregnant and they said 10, but 50% of your time, I would have signed it in a heartbeat to get out of county jail. County jail is horrible. I can do 5 years. But I just knew that I had to fight as hard as I possibly could so that I could get out for this baby without snitching, because at the time, like right before this arrest, I sold meth for the cartel and I just wasn't going to go. So 6 months into my stay, I got a 5-year plea. And when I tell you I signed that piece of paper so fast, I had never signed paper faster. I'm like, give it to me. So I got 5 years, 15 suspended, 40 years exposure. That's just a bunch of noise to say that if I ever commit another felony in the state of Arkansas, I am so fucked. But I'm retired now, so it's fine. It's working out. I am currently off parole, but I am still serving suspended sentence time. And then my 40 years exposure kicks in, which is just, again, noise for don't commit another felony.
So explain to me what that was like when you first found out you were pregnant in prison. Like, do you have to go to like a clinic, and they like, how does that go with women who get pregnant or who are pregnant when they get incarcerated? Every
facility is different, so I can't speak for what it's like to be pregnant in other places. I can just speak on my experience in Arkansas. So when I found out, I was in complete denial because I didn't know how to handle it. I'm coming off drugs. I'm looking at 20 years. I can't handle it. So I remember telling the nurse, like, you got the wrong one. You mixed up my stuff with someone else. There's no way I'm pregnant. And she's like, okay, crazy. You can go back to your cell now. Like, weird. And this was just like mentally for me, it was too much to handle. So for my first 2 months in, I probably just didn't even think about it. Logistically, the jail had to come to the realization that I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to be here for a long time. So they had to take me to the free clinic in the street. So I would be cuffed up, chained up, and taken into the free world in orange in chains to doctor's appointments.
That sucks.
So embarrassing.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't like bring me through the back door. No, we're walking through the front door.
Yeah.
No.
And like they'd hear the chains. Everyone would turn and look. I had one girl taking pictures of me one time, and I'm like, I swear to God, if I was not in these handcuffs, I would beat the fuck out of you. Like I was so embarrassed and so mad. And that's just how they handled it at that facility.
You had to like sit in the lobby and shit with all the other people? Wow.
With 2 guards on my side.
No.
Like I'm a serial killer or something. And it was so embarrassing. And like I think every moment throughout my incarceration this last time was so embarrassing and so hard, like mentally draining, physically exhausting. It was so traumatic and difficult for me that like it changed everything for me. It changed how I saw myself, how I looked at the world, how I looked at the street life that I had meditated on for so long. Like I was 12 and 13 saying like, I'll go to prison one day, but I'll just handle it. Like that makes no fucking sense. So finally I get my plea and I get transferred out of county and sent to prison, right? Well, I have to give birth at some point. So that has to happen.
At what point do you like accept the fact that you're pregnant, and do you have like some sort of like mind, like a change in your way of thinking to where like you want to actually like take care of the baby and like and think about like being a mom and then getting out of prison? What are you going to do when you get out? What's it going to be like when you give birth and then you get separated? Like, did you start to like think about this kind of stuff, and did that start kind of like change your way of thinking at all?
Yeah, like in labor, I thought maybe I am having a baby. No, like I was just in such denial for so long, and I didn't know what to do or how to handle it, right? So when I got to prison, they transferred me out of the max into a medium, and that will make sense in a second. I had met other girls at the time that were also pregnant. And, you know, I would watch them, because we're all at different stages of our pregnancy. I'd watch them go have their babies and then come back to the unit and show pictures and then see their babies on like a Saturday, because these babies went with family members.
Right.
And I'm like, oh, this chick did it. I can fucking handle this. I'm tough. I got this. I can do it. I had 9 months to prepare for what was about to happen. And I just thought, you know, if I'm seeing these women do it, and I've had 9 months to mentally prepare for having my baby and then coming back to prison, I can do this. I have gone through so much shit. I can handle this. Well, it was like 4 o'clock in the morning, which is like my time, I guess, for everything happening. And I went into labor, and I was just in complete denial that I was in labor. I didn't want to tell the guards I was in labor because I never talked to the guards. And I was just really scared. Well, they made me walk down to the infirmary, which was very difficult in active labor. And I get to the infirmary, and I thought, they're going to help you now because you're at the infirmary, like, which is a really long walk. Prison has long hallways. You have to be buzzed through every single door. Yeah. They have controlled movement. You can't just like walk freely. It's not like Orange is the New Black. So it takes time to get to where you're going. And I thought, oh man, just get to the infirmary and they're going to help you out. I got there by like 4:30, maybe 5 o'clock. And the CO or like the nurse says to me, just sit down here, and when shift change comes, then we'll take you to the hospital. And I'm like, shift change? That's at like 7:30, and they have to do count on the compound. And corrections officers, no offense if you are one and you're listening, can't count.
Right.
So they fuck it up every single time.
Don't worry, we've offended plenty of them.
Cool. I'm sorry, but count gets fucked up every single day, all day long. They cannot count, and they misplace inmates, which means like I'm in the infirmary, they're gonna fuck it up because I'm supposed to be on the unit. So I just know that that's gonna take forever. I had to sit there in active labor by myself in a wheelchair with like a puppy pad underneath me, just by myself watching the clock.
As you were in labor?
I'm in active labor. First time mom, I have no idea what's going to happen. And no one took it seriously because my water didn't break. But I don't know what that means. Like, I've never had a fucking baby before.
Right. So
I'm like, I don't know if I should be at the hospital right now. I don't know what's happening. And all I could think in that moment, and this is probably the first time in my life I've ever thought this, is I just wish my mom was here. I just wish my mom was here. So finally, we go to the hospital, and the nurses are like swishing around me, and they're talking to the COs, and they're not really talking to me. And I feel so degraded and embarrassed that I'm here as an inmate. Plus I'm also in extreme pain. And they asked me if I wanted an epidural, but they asked me through the guards if I could have one. And I'm like, this is a medical decision. You're going to ask a CO if I can have an epidural? They're fucking babysitters. They're not medical professionals. It was just a really bizarre experience for me. So I am trying to like mentally prepare for having a baby today. Like, we are having a baby today by myself with no one, just COs on my shoulder. My family's not here. I don't know where my baby's going to go. I don't know how to have a baby. Like, it's so much.
Are you in any communication with your family at all?
Zero at this point. Because once you leave the prison and you're out, you can't make a phone call. You can't let them know that you're outside of the facility. It's a security risk.
But so how earlier have you spoken with them prior to going into labor?
Oh, that's a good question. I think I had wrote my mom a letter maybe that month. Okay. I would talk to my mom as much as I could. Prison phone calls are really expensive. Yeah. So I couldn't call my mom that often, but we would write pretty regularly, a couple of times a month. I wasn't exactly even sure of my due date. You know, we were just kind of guessing. So she didn't know I was having a baby. She did, but she didn't. So Micah was born at 3. And to prepare for this, I thought, when she comes out, they're going to take her over here, and I'm just going to look over here. And if I don't look at her, maybe I'll be okay. Like, then I won't love her. And as weird as that sounds, and as much as people have judged me for saying that in the past, you have to understand, I spent 9 months preparing to give birth to a child I wasn't going to have. And I didn't know what to do. So I had to put these walls up, or these barriers up, in my own mind for a second, because it was so heavy and so hard for me to handle. So the CO at the time, shift change came, and an awful one came in. But the CO that was with me during this process was actually really nice to me. And she saw what I was doing. And she said, girl.
Oh, it was a female. That's nice.
Female. It was a female and a male. The dude left. He's like, I think we're good here. I'm going to step outside. And I'm like, thank you, bro. Like, thank you. But she sees what I'm doing. She sees that I'm not looking at this baby. And she says, girl, you better look at that baby. And I did. And she was the cutest thing I've ever seen in my life. And they brought her over to me and I held her. And you asked a minute ago if I had thought throughout my pregnancy that I was going to be different. No, not until I saw my daughter. When I saw her, everything changed. Everything changed. And people talk about mama bear instincts, but they don't say, like, you will kill for this little baby that you met 5 seconds ago. And it's so fierce and it's so strong. So during my pregnancy, I was trying to protect this baby. I was trying to make sure I was eating enough and drinking enough water and staying active and healthy the best that I could in prison. I had to fight for prenatal vitamins at one point, and I was just desperate to keep this baby inside of me healthy. But I didn't think beyond that. So now when I'm holding her on her birthday, I thought, oh my God, I have to protect her at all costs. I have to be there for her.